Welcome back to the Absolutely Epic Early Week Podcast, Week 16, Sweet 16. Dean here. That's Dean 7904 if you want to get all technical on me. This is the first podcast you listen to in DFS, not the last podcast you listen to in DFS, because it is a first look podcast. We're recording this Monday night, right after Monday Night Football, bringing in the usual suspects, batting first, leading off, returning champion. It's one Travis Mangone, fresh back from the DK Live final, where let's not get too excited. He was just a +1, but Mangone, how's life in your world?
Yeah, life has been good, man. Chilling in Florida, away from the Northeast, freezing cold, snow. So life is good, man. Soaking up the sunshine.
Grant is Grant. I want to say he had the fish. He had a couple things, maybe too many things pre-show. He had some cheese sticks. He had some pizzas. So there is a chance. There's a chance Grant might not make it through this podcast, but he's doing it for the people. He's powering through. I believe he has a bucket on hand or on ready just in case. Grant, say hello to the people.
Hi. I hope I don't vomit.
Is it wrong? Am I an awful person? I'm secretly rooting for vomit. Is that wrong of me?
I mean, I've done it enough in my lifetime where I have a very bad gag reflex.
Sure.
Yeah, I vomit very often. I don't know what it is. It's always been the case ever since in first grade when I chugged a bottle of ketchup and apparently just went out to the side of left, just got up in the room, left in first grade, went and vomited outside, came back inside, got in trouble, and never told them that I went outside to vomit. Just, yeah, all right, I deserve to be in trouble.
I like how you're saying this is like Goonies when you do the truffle shuffle as well. Is that also part of your repertoire?
I mean, I was the fat kid, so I always did the truffle shuffle.
There you go. A quick question, Grant. Does Mangone know what the truffle shuffle is?
I'm going with yes.
I'm going with no. I say he does not know what it is. Mangone?
Yeah, I know what the truffle shuffle is.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's something that he probably. But have you seen the Goonies?
Yeah, I've seen the Goonies. I was gonna make a chunk reference, but
I'm sorry. A what now?
What's the name? I'm blanking on it. What thing? I'm totally blanking. What's that kid's name? Isn't it Chunk?
Well, yeah, Chunk and Sloth. Yeah, I believe
Chunk and Sloth. Oh yeah, and then there's the Hey You Guys.
All right. Well, that served me right. Shut me up, Mangone. You win this round. We'll meet soon enough. Hey, I'm back. How were things last week? Were things good with the Big T? I didn't get.
Couldn't have been better.
Oh, you guys talked about Sweet Chunk as well, and no, that's a different. That's Police Academy. What am I doing?
We had a good time, man. Like Big T was like all over the Boston Scott train. We were talking Boston Scott right after the game, saying he was going to do well. He was all over it. Big T called that one, and then he was talking Derrick Henry all podcast long. But that hand he didn't hold. I mean, I guess he did fine, but for the price, it wasn't the greatest.
Well, he got his touchdown robbed.
Yeah, true.
By Ryan Tannehill.
Oh, was he the one who dropped that pass? I remember I saw the back end of it where it's like just basically the DB kind of hit him in.
No, Tannehill on the 1 yard line, instead of going to Henry, they did a Tannehill run.
Oh yeah, okay, that's right. Yeah, well, he was dinged throughout the week, and I assume he's, obviously they're playing for playoff implications. We should say this is a good time to kind of point it out. The Week 16, of course, they have some Saturday games. We're not talking about those Saturday games. So the Rams, you won't hear us talk about the Rams, the Niners, Houston, Tampa Bay, Buffalo, New England. Yeah, and also Monday Night Football, Green Bay, Minnesota. We're throwing that one out as well too. We're just talking about the main slate.
Is there no Sunday Night Football?
There is. Yahoo sponsors.
Yahoo sponsor has it.
Yeah, Yahoo sponsors the podcast, so of course we'll talk some Kansas City and Chicago as well. Chicago currently a 5-point dog, 45-point total in that game. But the main slate is 11 games, depending on where you're shopping. It's 12 games on Yahoo, adding in the Kansas City-Chicago game. But Grant, are you ready to kind of set the table as far as we're winding down? Is this the point where we kind of look at playoff implications, who's got motivation and things like that? Is that all of a sudden important to us?
It's an interesting point in the season because no one really has anything locked up right now. Like at this point, we've had so many times in the past where people just sit for the last 2 weeks of the season. Mm-hmm. Like we look at the AFC East, Patriots, they can still lose the division, I think.
To Buffalo, I guess?
Yeah. If they lose this week and they lose next week. I think they lose the division. The Chiefs still going for the number 1 seed or the number 2 seed, first round bye. The Texans don't have the division locked up here. The Ravens still have to hold on for the number 1 overall seed, although I think this week they can clinch it. Looking over the NFC, NFC is still wide open. NFC West still wide open. And the number 1 seed between Saints, Packers, Seahawks, and 49ers, all still wide open. And then the Vikings are still fighting for the playoffs. I don't know if they have the tiebreaker over the Rams. So literally everything is still open. There's not a single team that has clinched their spot in the playoffs, which is not something normal we have at this point in the season.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we're not talking about Minnesota as far as Monday night. We don't even know what the running back situation, but stay tuned for that as far as there'll be showdown content with Big T and Chopper for sure, as well as some other people. Mangone, are your Packers going to hold on to that? Are they going to win the NFC North?
Oh, for sure, man. We're definitely taking down the NFC North. We're not letting the Vikings take us. I'm excited, and then hopefully Rodgers can crush it in the playoffs, and I can tell Cardi he's an idiot for saying Rodgers isn't a top 13 quarterback or whatever he says.
He didn't say 13, did he? That's egregious.
I think he ranked him 14th, which makes sense because he had to have Ryan Fitzmagic above Aaron Rodgers.
I'd love to see the rest of this list. This might be worse than Big T's top 25 basketball player list.
Oh, it is. It is. I mean, listen, Big T's list, the adding of the guys with the zeros, stat lines that say that they should count for the season was bad, but the list overall was fine if you kind of took that little caveat out. But yeah, the Rodgers not being top 13 is super, super.
Also, if Green Bay wins, they're playing against Minnesota. Okay, so if Minnesota wins, all of a sudden they'll be tied going into the Week 17. That's kind of interesting. Minnesota's going to win then. You got to get some drama. You got to add some drama to the season. Sorry, Mangone, you're going to lose that game.
I mean, I listen. I just want the Packers to clinch. I might go to a playoff game. I was thinking about maybe going, but it's do I want to freeze myself? So I want it to be the right situation. I want it to be a good game too, another team I want to see. So, have
you been to Lambeau before?
I've been once, but I haven't done a playoff game, so I don't know. It's in the. I'm considering doing it, but do I want to freeze? That is the one question because
it's worth it. Trust me, I've been to cold playoff games.
I should ask Tuttle. I think Tuttle's seen the Tuttle's done the playoff game. I think he did it for one of the freezing cold games last year.
He takes his lawnmower to the game, right? He parks that. Isn't that what he rides on the road, or is that a whole other story?
That's a whole other story, and it only goes 3 miles an hour.
You want to talk about the slate? Let's talk about the slate. Biggest total as of right now on a Monday night, it's New Orleans at Tennessee. Of course, that New Orleans game just finished, but as of right now, it's high and it's tight because Tennessee is just a 2-point dog. Arizona at Seattle. Seattle is a 9.5-point favorite, 15.5 as far as the total. Baltimore, L-Jax is absolutely ridiculous. He's a 10-point favorite at Cleveland. Mango, you're all over the nonsense and the shenanigans and the sideshow stuff. What's happening in Cleveland? Are they just imploding? Apparently everybody hates Kitchens and everybody wants out. Is that a thing I read on Twitter today?
Oh, yeah. It's really bad. Actually, one thing I happened to see was apparently there was something on Instagram and it was talking about Odell Beckham maybe wanting out or something, or he posted a picture and Devontae Adams commented and was you'd look good in green. And I was oh no, please. I don't want to add some more craziness to the locker room. It's good enough right now. So yeah, that team is just an absolute disaster right now. I think it's falling apart.
Yeah, L-Jax, we could have just crown him. He's the MVP for sure, but you got to pay for it. On DK, Grant, he is 1K more than the next quarterback. He's 8K. Wilson, of course, is 7K, and he's facing Arizona. And my concern against Arizona is they're probably just going to run the ball against Arizona because they're probably going to be ahead against Arizona, and they only pass the ball when they kind of sort of have to. Love Wilson, but I just don't know. He might throw 25 passes. That's sort of my immediate thought there, but Grant, we kind of break it down position by position. What's jumping out for you as far as quarterbacks?
Yeah, so, looking at L-Jax, obviously, he's the top raw points play on the slate, but do I think I end up playing him? Probably not a whole lot. 8K is just a lot to pay for him. He's finally at that price tag where I don't know if it's entirely worth it. He's still in play, but just not someone I'm going out of my way to spend on. Wilson going up against Arizona, you kind of said that. I still have a little bit of interest in him for tournaments, but not a whole lot. Tannehill, Breeze playing in Tennessee, both of them are fine. Dak is probably the first guy that stands out just because he's going up against Philly. Obviously not a great pass defense, not as bad as they were at one point in the season, but Dak is still a guy that can put up a massive amount of points there. I really like Matt Ryan. We know where a lot of his targets are going. Jacksonville has just been awful the second half of the season. don't entirely understand it. He's a guy that I think is very much in play. Fitzmagic going up against Cincinnati, second worst pass defense in the league. Fitzmagic been putting up big numbers on a fairly consistent basis, has upside in any given matchup here. This is projected to be close. Like, they're not playing for anything, but they're playing for funsies. They like to have a good time. And so Fitzmagic is a good spot, but like that's really it in like the 6K and above range. Everyone else I have is much cheaper that I have some interest in.
Miami's playing Cincinnati, and Cincinnati has one loss, and no team has less than 3 outside of Cincinnati. So Cincinnati basically has it locked. Miami has 3 losses, of course, and several other teams have 3 losses as well. As far as the worst record in football, Giants and Washington, as well as Detroit. So Cincy, I guess in theory they could try if they wanted to. By the way, Ryan Tannehill, 4th most expensive quarterback on DK, 3rd most expensive quarterback on Yahoo. Man, he's really worked his way up the ladder as far as salary and asking price as the season's progressed. Mangone, what do you have for me as far as quarterbacks? He's no longer a cheapie, Tannehill.
Yeah, he's no longer cheap, but that's okay. I don't really think I need to mess with Tannehill here in this spot. Like, Matt Ryan's kind of interesting, and I'm not a Matt Ryan guy, but they're going against the Jaguars. It's like anyone against the Jags we should sort of kind of consider. I think Fitzpatrick's fine. At the top, we probably should have talked about L. Jackson. I don't think I'm going to end up going there unless we get a lot of extreme value. Then I'm cool with going in, right? Like, if we get some running back extreme value and wide receiver extreme value, but I see myself jamming in some of these studs at the top. If you've been playing fantasy for the last 2 weeks or maybe probably like 5 weeks, we've been jamming him, Thomas and McCaffrey. Probably actually longer than 5 weeks. But, I'm probably going to look more to go cheaper at quarterback this week. I think that's kind of looking like the move. I mean, Murray at 6.1K is fine as well. But I don't know. I'm kind of not loving this, 6.4 and like up. I don't like those top-tier quarterbacks. I like maybe getting some of the guys in like the 6K range and going a little bit even cheaper.
Yeah, I agree with you. LJax, both you guys basically kind of said the same thing. We live in the world of a salary cap, and it feels like a wants versus needs. I would love to have LJax as my quarterback. I don't know how much I need it. I don't know how much it hurts the rest of my lineup. But again, it's near the end of the season. Players are hitting the IR, and we don't have reports as far as practice reports. And there's probably going to be a couple guys that pop up, and maybe that'll open up some salary. Earlier this year, week 4 against Cleveland, for what it's worth, 66 yards on the ground. Let's see, threw for 247, 24 of 34. Looks like they lost 25-40. Cleveland put up a 40 spot against them. Revenge game in the season, I suppose, for the Baltimore side. Mangone, you kind of teased it pre-show. You said you have a cheap quarterback that's worth talking about. I assume we haven't got there just yet?
Yeah, we haven't got there yet. Like, there's other guys I think we can discuss. One guy that's cheap that we probably need to talk about is Andy Dalton.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's just like anyone against Miami, right? It doesn't matter who it is. They're in the conversation. And this is that time of year where weather matters. So this game is in Miami, so that's good. Obviously, targeting dome games is a good idea, too, as well. One thing I want to note, actually, about Matt Ryan and go back real quick is, like, that game's in a dome, which is great, right? I think it's going to be awesome. But the one problem with the Jaguars is that they've been killing the clock, right? They play at such a slow pace. So that's one thing that might worry me a bit there. But focusing on these domes and really nice weather games is definitely something that's important to definitely look at. So, I think it's worth talking about. Like, Dalton's going to be in Miami. That's going to be pretty good for him. And, again, it's the Dolphins, and they are terrible.
Matt Ryan finally figured out that he's got Julio Jones, by the way, so he threw the ball 20 times to him last week, who I did not play, and I told people that was a bad play. So my bad if you all listen to me on that one. But
idiot.
Yeah, well, maybe for different reasons, but possibly for that one as well too. But, look, I didn't play him either. It was a poor decision on my part. Somehow we salvaged the week. But, Julio erupted for sure. It was a pretty cool walk-off. I guess you can call it a walk-off touchdown last week against San Fran. Working our way down here, Grant, who's jumping out for you in the mid-tier? It's, Wentz. I just worry that, like, his pieces aren't very good to throw the ball to. Like, who's left standing as far as receivers? He has some good tight ends, but he is fairly cheap. I'll give him that. Sure, why not? I agree with Dak being interesting. Drew Lock, nice matchup. Again, who knows what the weather's going to be like there in Denver. Who knows if he's even any good. But Detroit, we know pretty confident they're pretty terrible. Mayfield's very cheap, but, again, that matchup not very good. Although he did roast him earlier in the season. At least the team put up a 40 spot. I don't know. I'm not excited. I'm not enthused. I think Dalton's, like, makes some sense because he's cheap and he's facing Miami, and it's kind of as simple as that. Grant, give me somebody else.
Fallopian Rivers.
Oh,
Wait, you mean the guy that just threw for 300 passing yards that you can correlate very nicely with his underpriced wide receivers? Yes, I have a lot of interest in Rivers here. You mentioned
this is week 16, by the way, and if we want to date it back to last year, this is now 33 straight weeks in a row where you've touted Phillip Rivers, just so you know.
Yeah, sounds about right. Because he's won me a bunch of money in my career, and no one ever plays him. He just put up 300 yards. He gets a good matchup versus Oakland. He's 5,700. You got Mike Williams. You got Keenan Allen. You got Hunter Henry. You got weapons. You got Eckler. So it's a nice little tournament stack there. I like Rivers' tournaments. You mentioned Locke. He may have done terribly against KC, but Denver doesn't have the greatest O-line. KC can get pressure on the quarterback, and there was snow. Overall, just a really bad spot for him last week, and he obviously didn't do too well, but you can't really expect him to do too well.
And snow didn't bother Pat Mahomes.
Yeah, he's used to playing in the snow, and he's Mahomes. And he has a bunch of weapons, and he has a great offensive coach. But Locke going up against Detroit, we know how bad they've been against quarterbacks all season long here. This game's projected to be moderately close. So I like Locke here. Minshew, not terrible going up against Atlanta. We never know what Atlanta defense we're going to end up getting, but it's being played in a dome. Minshew, if Chark's out, I actually have more interest in him just because of the corollary effects of playing Conley and Cole in the same lineup, or Dede, like any of those guys. They're just all so cheap. Dalton is the other guy that, like Mangone already mentioned, he's probably, as of right now, maybe the best point per dollar play at quarterback on the entire slate.
Yeah.
Which is weird to say, but Miami's just so bad on the defensive end. And Dalton's put up some decent games for fantasy purposes this year. And now he gets just the best matchup on the board going up against the Dolphins. We look all the way back to the beginning of the season and how he's done so far. First 2 games of the season was against Seattle and against San Francisco. Put up 25 and 22 points there. He's had a lot of 20-point games here so far this season, and he's at 52 with the best matchup on the board. He can go for 350 passing yards and 3 touchdowns. It's definitely within the realm of possibilities here. So he's a guy. And then guy you mentioned before our show, would you like to mention him? Would you like to take the credit?
Well, it's not credit, but I was just doing some research, and it's funny. I mentioned Will Grier, and he's going to be starting versus Indianapolis. He's 4.3K, which is ridiculously cheap. I don't know how good he is, former Florida quarterback. I'm not going to sit here and pretend to be a Will Grier expert, but he is at the Dome, so he can stink it indoors, I suppose. But Mangone said I got somebody as well too, and I'm going to say Mangone's rebut to Will Grier. Is it Mangone? Do you like Haskins this week possibly?
It's not him, but dude, get this. I just got a text message from my friend. He had a 4-0 night on the sports book, but it's got his history. He says, don't mind the previous losses, though. That's classic sports betting right there, man. Too funny.
Wait, you did the same thing pre-show. You had a conversation. You were telling us you're 6-0, and your last.
My picks on the season are really good, Dean.
Hold on a second.
My picks on the season.
Hold on, relax. You're calling yourself out because you said,
"No, I'm not.
I'm 6 for my last 6 on the Sharpside app," and I'm like, "Well, I guess that means you're 6 for your last 7 too, right?"
I said I don't know. I didn't look. I just know it's for the week.
Oh, I know. You would know it's 7 out of 7. Come on.
I know you don't support my article, but we are up in the double-digit units on the season, sir. So
how do you do it? How do you do it?
I don't know how I do it. It's amazing.
Grant's going to tell us how he does it tomorrow in a tweet. I'm sure he'll help you out.
Oh, man. Tell the people about that real quick, Dean. Can we do that in an hour or no? We wait for later.
Well, we owe Grant a tweet. I wasn't here last week, but apparently Big T came in, out of nowhere, off the bench, warm, cold, I guess you can say. Big T beat Grant. Grant lost again, and tweets are consequences. We owe him a tweet from last week, too, because I was on the road, and we're just kind of way behind, so we got a double shot for him. But, we don't have the tweet constructed, but we came up with a pre-show. But basically, Grant, you're going to be you're touting Vegas Dave. That's going to be a lot of fun. Do the people know who Vegas Dave is, Grant? Because they'll learn tomorrow.
Well, apparently he's never lost a bet.
Yeah, he's a crook. I assume he's a crook, right? And you'll be kind of sort of endorsing the crook. He's 67-0 in his last 67 parlays.
Yeah, how does he do it? I don't know.
That's his big catchphrase, right? Is that the?
Yeah.
There you go. So you're a Vegas Dave stan. How do you feel about that?
Not great. Not great at all.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry.
I lost. It happened.
I tweeted out worst.
I really should have taken into account more weather at this point of the season, but You always think like, I can figure things out later on in the week. Not with this podcast when it comes to weather. You need to be prepared now.
You got to commit on Monday. These are my players. That's it. And Roth can only forecast so much. He doesn't know the weather forecast in 6 days. But yeah, just pick players indoors. How about that?
Yeah, I mean, I guess, or just playing in Miami or LA. It's not really too different.
So Mangone, who was your guy? You said you got you called out your friend who was basically you're calling out yourself indirectly. But congrats.
That's not true what happened. But yeah. Anyways, so listen, let's talk about this. So we like Will Grier, right? I think he's going to be a guy to consider because
is a relative term. But go ahead.
Yeah,
continue.
well, he's part of like the team jam them in combo, right? Because you get a cheap guy, but. Dean, I can give you a guy that has legs. Grant wanted to take a backup quarterback in Phillip Rivers. Is it Tyrod Taylor starting season?
Oh, is that possibly going to happen?
I mentioned this during the show and before the show, and you said no.
You didn't ask me this.
No, I said, is it Tyrod Taylor? And Mangone said no.
He was playing possum.
Yeah, I don't know what was going on. I don't know what was going on there. Oh no, you did say that before the show, but I wanted to leave it organic. So I didn't want Dean to find out. I wanted him to
organic. In other words, lie to me.
Well, I wanted to get Dean's organic reaction.
Let's go know what organic means.
Well, I wanted Dean's reaction, but
I'm excited. Is this possibly going to happen?
Well, I mean, they said on December 1st, if Phillip Rivers, plays this bad again, they're going to bench him possibly. And, that's not a good – 307 yards is fine, but the, one touchdown and 3 interceptions isn't good. So, I don't know.
Good enough for Grant Tatum for a 16 straight week.
I mean, you can't stop, won't stop.
Well, he's stopping. So, you're talking about him having kids, I think is what you're talking about with that slogan, but go ahead.
Yeah, so my question here is, if you have to pick Will Grier or Tyrod Taylor, who you got? Because
it's 100% Tyrod.
I agree.
Grant's down to 2 quarterbacks for the same team. Just want to throw that out there.
Oh, I know someone who's done that before.
With great success.
Like if Tyrod ends up playing, I mean, he's put into a great offense. Like
what do you say? What are you calling him now? This is like
Tyrod,
the cool.
That's his name.
Cool. Okay, what do you call like the stuff you put on top of pumpkin pie?
Cool Whip. No, but he like the first 4 years he was in the league, he went by Tyrod, and finally someone asked, he's like, no, it's actually pronounced Tyrod.
I thought it was T-Mobile. That was the nickname they already gave him?
That's his nickname, but his actual name is Tyrod.
Okay, fair enough. Continue.
That was it. That was his name. But he has like Mike Williams, Keenan Allen. Like he put up decent numbers.
The same guys that Phillip Rivers had. Does he have Eckler too?
Well, there's a difference. I don't know if you know this, but there's a $1,400 price difference, and Tyrod has legs. I don't know if you know this, Dean, but I like to have my QB run.
Yeah, I do too. Here's my question, though. Like, he's probably like a one and done, I'm assuming. Like, why would they play him? Just because?
I mean, they have to look at the future. Are they going to bring back Rivers next year? Their time is running out for them to be able to win championship. Gordon will be gone next year, but that's not really a big deal. They still have Keenan Allen, Hunter Henry, Mike Williams, all the young defenses. Like, people don't realize that Hayward, King, what's his name, Joey Bosa, like all the guys on their defense that is just incredibly talented are still there. They actually had, up until last week, like a 30-point positive point differential on the season, even with a whole bunch of interceptions and a whole bunch of injuries throughout the season. They still have a shot at winning the Super Bowl next year. Like, people don't realize that because of how bad they've been this year, but they're essentially the same team as they were last year. They get a good quarterback in there if they don't decide to bring back Phillip Rivers, which I'm not sure if he's still under contract, or if Phillip Rivers just goes back to what he was last year. They were 1 win away from being the number 1 seed. They're the exact same scenario as San Fran is this year.
Well, they must have 8 losses by 3 points or less and like 2 wins when they win by 30 or more or something like that. I'm guessing.
Well, pretty much every single win or loss outside of 2 of them that have been blowouts have been by 3 or less.
Guys, this is the nonsense portion of the podcast.
This is not important. Well, Tyrod Taylor, by the way, he is signed for next year, and he's 30 years old. Like, his legs are kind of like already starting to give out. Rivers, as far as his contract next
30
season.
30 years old isn't really that old when you haven't been a starting quarterback for half your career.
And Rivers is an unrestricted free agent next year for what it's worth. So, and like, obviously, I think their quarterback in the future is like, we don't know who it is. It's somebody in the draft or like a free agent or something like that. It's neither is the answer.
I mean, like, I don't know. Like, a lot of people have talked about Tyrod being actually pretty good. And it throws me off every time I say his name the real way. But
I like him in Buffalo.
Like, he hasn't gotten his fair shot, really.
All right. Do we have anything else as far as quarterbacks that's worth noting, or shall we talk about some running backs?
Yeah, I'm good. We don't need to dissect Tyrod Taylor's career.
Grant, you want to talk about like Melvin Gordon or Eckler or anything? Where do you want to start as far as the running backs this week?
I mean, Eckler's 6,100, Gordon's 5,600. Are you saying that they're bad plays?
I'm just saying you always talk about the Chargers. I don't know why.
Because I'm right.
Have you noticed this, Mangone? Have you noticed this?
No, I mean, I don't know. I mean, he lived.
I stopped for like 6 weeks during the season. Like, I mentioned Rivers, I didn't highly suggest him.
Yeah, he did have a stretch where he wasn't talking about the Chargers.
You know what I was talking about? When Keenan Allen was crushing every single week.
That was like the first 5 weeks of the year.
Oh, and Eckler. And then I took like 6 weeks off, and then I started talking about, all right, Melvin's going back to normal. They had a rough run where they had some injuries on the offensive line. This is not the same like offense that it was for that stretch during the middle of the season where they could not get any protection on either Rivers, and they could not run block worth crap. Both Eckler went from the top-rated running back in the league to averaging 2 yards a carry. And everyone talked about how when Melvin Gordon got back, the offense got worse. It wasn't entirely his fault. It was because they could not block for him. And now they're back to near full strength. They're actually doing decent on offense. They had a tough matchup versus the Vikings, but all the prior weeks they were doing well. Now they get a matchup versus Oakland, 29th in DVOA versus pass, 26th in DVOA against the run. Like, Eckler is 6,100 and Gordon is 5,600. They're currently 5.5-point favorites, which means they're probably going to be running with Melvin. Prior to last week, Melvin was getting consistent 20 touches a game and doing some work in the receiving game. He has a bunch of touchdown equity. Not many people are going to play him. He was chalked 2 weeks ago at, 50 or 6,500. He gets just as good of a matchup almost going against Oakland as he did against Jacksonville. And this projects to be closer, so they're not going to pull him after 3 quarters and let Watt steal his touchdown.
Well, Gordon, I believe, is going to be a free agent at the end of the season. And my issue is Gordon and Eckler for the last 2 weeks, neither one of them has been on the field more than half the snaps.
The last 2 weeks, it's almost like they were both blowouts.
Well, whatever, man. 65% and 53% the week before.
It's because it was a blowout, Dean. It was an absolute blowout. They pulled him both. They put Eckler in there to give him a 100-yard rushing and a 100-yard receiving game. Melvin Gordon had 16 points at half, and that's because Watt snaked a 1-yard touchdown. If they would have had any reason to run him, then they would have, and he probably would have gone for 25 points.
This has turned into a Chargers podcast. Hey, CMC.
Are we on like the San Diego Tribune podcast? Would you guys want to dissect the salary cast for like the cornerbacks on the Chargers?
I'm secretly auditioning for a Chargers podcast on this podcast. You guys don't realize it.
Well, Casey Hayward, I think, is going to get rid of his rookie contract. And Desmond King.
CMC is playing football. He speaking of, I like guys, Grant, that are on the field. That's the most important thing. It's the best chance to get fantasy points. He's on the field for every snap, like literally every snap last week. It's completely ridiculous. Of course, Carolina's going nowhere, but I suppose you can say they want him to get the 1,000 rushing yards he already has.
He's close to setting the all-time yards from scrimmage record if he has
correct
2 big games.
I think it's like 300 and change combined rushing and receiving as far as he's behind CJ2K. He needs like a little bit less than 200 receiving yards to get 1,000, which, it feels like he's got a decent shot at that. And it feels like the team's like aware of this and they care about this for some reason because I guess it's a lost season. So why not? Mangone, is there anything you need to say about CMC? He's a great play. If you can make it work, make it work. If, what's to say at this point?
Yeah, man, he's definitely a good play. He's # good at football. Somebody consider, unless there's some type of word that he's not going to get the work, then you play him, right? It's pretty simple. The other guys are interesting, right? Like Carson got a real nice price hike. Barkley, again, he got a price hike too, and they're both in pretty solid spots. Carson against Arizona looks good. Anyone against Washington's a good time. It's definitely an interesting situation on those 2 guys. They're expensive, but maybe getting 2 of those 3 top end guys might be the route to go. When you look at some of these other guys, it's a little murky. Elliott against the Eagles, you kind of want to pass on that. Henry won't have the game script. They'll likely be trailing. Kamara, I don't know if he's dust or what he is, but he's been frustrating all year long. You're not playing Nick Chubb against the Ravens. Leonard Fournette.
There you go.
I was getting there. Leonard Fournette, he's been the worst. he's getting the volume, but man, I don't know. I don't know if I can stomach Uncle Lenny one more time. I did it on FanDuel. It still worked out, right? Had a great team, but man, he's been really.
Well, he wasn't good on FanDuel. He wasn't good this week.
Oh, I know. I mean, my team still did good, but Leonard Fournette was there just doing nothing as usual. So
yeah, I mean, he was like the Terrence Ferguson in the winning team. Like he didn't do anything, but he got the W. But
don't besmirch my name.
But yeah, I mean, I'm not trying to just go down here and list these guys one by one, but it's like the top guys are really nice, those three, and then the rest are kind of pretty nasty. You start getting excited when you see Joe Mixon against Miami.
What a sentence.
Yeah. Again, because it's anyone against Miami, right? I take Crane and Dean, that combo of running backs back there, man.
Look at the fullback there.
Oh, Crane. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like you got more burst.
And also I can run the tires. I'm sneaky fast.
He's got that sneaky speed. So, Mixon definitely makes a lot of sense. I would like Mixon way above the Chargers guys that Grant talked about. My one worry with this game, I think the prices are nice. I mean, Gordon's price at 5.6K, like you said, Grant, it's really good. The problem here with the Chargers game is both these teams play really, really slow. I do have a concern there with that, but we'll have to see. I think they're in the conversation, though, for sure, those Chargers backs you discussed.
Yeah, suck it, Dean.
Mango in pre-show, he read how long does each team take before they snap the ball article.
No, I didn't.
Do you not look at pasting?
I know. He just keeps referencing it, which makes me laugh.
We actually.
It's one of the most important things in fantasy.
I understand. What is this pace you speak of?
Yeah, no, it's important. And, I was just kind of kicking myself because, the Jaguars-Raiders game, was such a slow-paced game, and, I played too much of it, in my opinion. So now I'm, pissed about it. But it ended up working out. I had Conley, and I was freaking out, but Conley got luck. He luck-boxed into 2 touchdowns. Absolutely luck-boxed. But, Le'Veon
Mixon's been good, though. You mentioned Mixon. He's been good, against New England. He was good. He was good against Cleveland, getting a ton of touches as well. And there you go. You mentioned Le'Veon Bell, and that's a segue into our sponsor site, right? Mangone, we were talking about this pre-show.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to do there. So, Le'Veon Bell, $18 in the revenge game. Definitely have to like him a little bit. We were talking. I think while Grant was vomiting, maybe I don't know what was going on. But
Blender has that monopoly on vomit stacks. I think Grant's going to challenge him this week. But go ahead.
Le'Veon Bell had 84% of the snaps. I think we said, which was way better. Actually, when I was in Miami, I didn't go to the club at the time, but at the club, apparently Le'Veon Bell was there. He had a sign that said "Best flu game ever," 251 bowling game. His posse was talking to some DFS players and saying how much they hate Adam Gase. So that was pretty funny. But Bell got the snap.
Hey, Grant, how much fun is Mangone? He's in Miami. He's like, nah, I'm just gonna stay in the hotel for the night. Club, nah. Hang out with Le'Veon Bell, nah, I'm good.
Yeah, I don't understand that at all. Then again,
I didn't know he was there. I mean, that would have probably been the pull, but I was kind of tired. I forget what happened. I think I had to be up really early to do some probably sharp side stuff.
You got to pick some winners. You can't just go 6-0 rolling out of bed.
Yeah, man, you can't do that. It's you gotta we'll see. I don't know how you do it. We'll see, Grant. You can tell us this weekend.
What? See how I do what?
just making a Vegas Dave reference.
Oh, how does he do it? The 6K, the 5 and 6K range is just loaded this week.
I don't know about loaded, but it's nice.
Yeah. Well, it's got Chargers, so he's excited.
Well, Bell has cheapest price tag in a revenge game. We've got Devonta Freeman going up against the worst run defense in the league, possibly, in Jacksonville. He is the main back there.
He's also terrible.
I mean, is he?
Yes.
But is he?
He is, yes.
There's a couple others. Grant will obviously, Philip Lindsay's kind of interesting, right, against the Lions because they're so bad. But here's the one, Grant, man. Adrian Peterson, right, against the Giants. You love yourself some Adrian Peterson.
Yeah. AP's definitely in there. We act like we forgot about Drake. He's going up against Seattle.
What is Drake's price?
I forgot about him. He scored 4 touchdowns to remind me.
Yeah, no, just crushed my soul. But yeah, Miles Sanders is Jordan Howard's out. Dallas, just a mediocre run defense. Miles Sanders is 6,400. Got 6 targets last week going up against a team that funnels targets to opposing running backs. Dean likes running backs to be able to catch balls. So there you go. You got Miles Sanders there now. This range is just fantastic when up top, Carson's so expensive Barkley's so expensive. McCaffrey's so expensive. Those are the only three guys in good matchups. Zeke's not in a good matchup.
Mixon.
Henry's not in a good matchup. Yeah, I already mentioned Mixon. Mixon's not that expensive.
Oh, sorry, I apologize. But like Sanders is $17 on Yahoo. You didn't really get a big price hike. So I kind of like that when you're comparative shopping. I think that's better price than on DK. Of course, you can play him with DK as well, full PPR. Yeah. Anything else here, Mangone? Is there a cheapie? Again, this is the first look, and who knows how it's going to go down. Is Laird's season officially over? Like he basically splits snaps
when he's getting the best matchups he's had all year.
Yeah, but he didn't get to play. He played like 40% of the snaps or 45% of the snaps last week.
Well, I mean, Davis isn't going to be there, so
he's also terrible.
The Maddock mush, it's got to go the other way now, right? Maddock plays 0%, and then we get all the Patrick Laird.
They're not giving up. They're going to keep playing them, I'm sure. What's his name? Gaskins. So Patrick Laird and Myles Gaskins, I don't know, I'm saying Gaskins. Gaskin each had 48% of the snaps last week, for what it's worth.
Yeah, and then they were just alternating series. So, yeah, I think Gaskin, and Laird are both kind of interesting. Again, they're going up against the Bengals, right? Like, we can't sleep on them completely. So, I think those are, two cheapies you have to consider there in that spot. So, I wouldn't give up on those guys. I'm trying to see if there's anything else. This Wes Hills guy got 10 attempts for 21 yards.
I hate him so much. I played so much Blau.
Oh man,
Mr. Blau, that's his name.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to see if there's anything ugly down here, but this is we could talk about Justin Jackson down here in Pope Grant. You down to talk about them Chargers?
It's not a Charger. Why would you play Blau? You can't just let that slide. Blau is terrible. He's horrendous.
Dean, you weren't on this podcast last week.
Yeah.
But we were all talking about Blau the entire time.
Bling, 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 Blau, man. We were like, man.
Will Greer looks at Blau and says, man, that is a terrible quarterback.
He got 2 touchdown snake from him. He still ended up with 260 yards. He gets those touchdowns, he's at pretty much 20 points.
Well, yeah. If my aunt had – yeah.
You know exactly who to pair him with, Amendola and Galladay. Like, Amendola had 13 targets last week. He had 21 points. He's still cheap. We'll get to that when we get to wide receivers. But it's more about playing the correlation, because if Blau actually has a good game, if he actually throws those 2 touchdowns, then you can take down a GPP with that stack. I
saw somebody win the Millie Maker without correlation, and Twitter lost its mind. Apparently, so DK had to be able to get a stamp of approval. This is a well correlated lineup. Okay, we're going to pay you out. Or how does this work, Mangone? Can you win without a correlated lineup? Because I think it's possible.
Well, you can, but you might get in trouble. The Twitter police comes after you. If it's not enough, if you don't win enough money, the ROI police gets after you. You gotta watch what you're posting these days.
There's a lot of rules, man. I can't follow all the rules.
It wasn't as bad as someone I won't mention, but had 3 Rams players and then a naked Dak.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Does that?
I don't know. I'm just
no,
razzing
that doesn't.
Well, Higbee was really cheap.
Goff at pretty much the same price tag.
Yeah. Well, you run it back.
Well, yeah, you don't run it back with Dak and no wide receiver.
I don't know, man. I just love how everybody is so critical and you have to correlate. And of course
you don't have to fully correlate, but you correlate unless you have an extreme running quarterback, you correlate your quarterback with a wide receiver or a tight end or multiple.
That's the way. That's what you're supposed to do. But there's other ways there's other routes.
There's very few times where you get a winning wide receiver that the quarterback wasn't worth it.
Well, yeah, but there's more than one quarterback that can get you there, and the salary caps. There's different quarterbacks at different price tierings.
You don't, without a running quarterback, you don't take down a massive GPP without pairing it with at least one wide receiver, tight end, or running back.
I can find this. I can pull up results DB and prove you wrong. It's been done before.
It's been done before, but so rarely. It's such a massive edge to it's been done before, but you know when been done before? When Josh Allen runs for 100 yards, when Lamar Jackson runs for 100 yards, when someone randomly gets 2. Philip Rivers, he does not run for 100 yards.
We could throw 3 touchdowns to 3 different dudes.
Yes, he can, but if every single time he's done that, it's been I know the times when Philip Rivers has taken down the Millie Maker and it's because he has 4 touchdowns and 350 passing yards, in which case almost every single wide receiver has about 100 yards receiving. If you don't correlate your quarterback with a wide receiver, if the QB doesn't have legs, then it's just a bad tournament strategy.
I was just doing like a throwaway dumb joke, and like we got to this whole conversation, but I guess it's worth talking about. Mangone, this is way too serious of a conversation for this podcast, because Mangone, this is the first podcast to listen to in DFS, not the last, right?
Yeah, I thought you were going to forget to mention that, so I was going to I almost set you an alley-oop like 5 minutes ago on that, but let's see how he does.
That was like the first thing I said. Thanks for listening, Mangone.
Why would you say it twice?
Because I was making another terrible joke.
Why would we listen to you?
Well, I figure 1 for 2. You catch it one of the times, I suppose. Is there any cheap running backs as of right now, Mangone, or just kind of like sitting around and waiting on injury practice stuff? And I don't think there's anything that's really popping for me.
It was just the crappy guys we kind of mentioned. But yeah, like this is the portion of the podcast where I say wait till Friday for the injury report, where we get all the news and then everything shapes up.
So then why are they listening to this podcast and we're just telling them to wait till Friday?
Dean, because we're giving valuable information that they can use to build on things.
We can just read off the roster for the Chargers for them.
Dean,
I did read off the roster for the Chargers.
Dean, you have to listen. We are building a foundation here. We are building the house from the ground up. We're giving the foundation, and then they on Friday can take that news and add all the pizzazz to it, okay?
We're building
Dean,
something.
what happens if you don't put a foundation in their house?
I guess it would collapse. I don't know. What am I, I'm not an architect.
And I thought you taught architecture to high school.
I always wanted to pretend to be an architect, though, just like George Costanza.
Just like Ted Mosby.
I did not teach architecture in high school, but I caught that as well. That was not my area of specialty. So receivers, can't guard Mike. He's the most expensive receiver. He should be. Is Julio going to get 20 more targets? Because if he is, then I'm in.
I don't think he's going to get 20, but this is a good spot for him. The problem is he's 8K now. Again, still don't care. It's going up against Jacksonville. Ridley's not the lineup here. He should get a large amount of targets, and he's still Julio. And last week it was a little bit of a tough matchup, if I remember correctly. It was against Carolina, right?
No, San Francisco.
San Francisco, that was it. Yeah, so it wasn't an easy matchup. That was the reason not to play him, but he's Julio. He can go off at any time. Now he gets an actual decent matchup. The problem is too many people might play him. But, like, the real interesting thing here is the next 4 guys are not guys that we think of, that before the season we thought of as superstars. Lockett, A.J. Brown, DJ Moore, Devontae Parker. Like, none of these guys were really that much on our radar at the beginning of the season outside of Lockett, just for what he did last season. But, like, are any of these guys really justifiable? I'd say yes. Lockett and Parker are both fantastic plays here. Like, Parker is one of my favorite plays on the entire slate at wide receiver.
I like him a lot, too. I liked him last week, and I talked myself off him because of the stupid wind. And, yeah, that's why wind's overrated, right, Mangone?
Well, when you have a QB that throws magic.
Is Mangone still with us? I think is he hurling?
No, I'm here. I'm just I don't know, waiting for you guys to get through the receivers, I guess you could say. I don't know.
Okay, what do you want to talk about if not wide receivers?
I don't know. I mean, you play Mike Thomas. It's pretty simple. It's the Titans.
Well, we live on the salary cap. You can't say
we also
CMC.
play more than one wide receiver.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, fair enough. But, like, I don't know. I don't think we can really spend up on a lot of these guys. Like, I'm playing Thomas, and then it's like, okay, like, these other guys I kind of have to pass on, it feels like. It's tough.
None of them are that expensive. Like, a lot of the guys aren't that expensive. We only have
Brown got a big hike,
Thomas,
man.
And the next guy is $1,300.
I mean, I'm not playing A.J. Brown. I'm sorry. People weren't playing him at 6K. Like, not enough people did.
Dean, by the way, how many targets did he end up with?
Well, first of all, that was so out of context. The conversation we were talking about, this is a callback to something that half people didn't even hear us say, but you said, like, you misquoted myself and then
No, I said that he will probably get double-digit targets. And both you and Tuttle said,
it's unlikely.
I absolutely don't see that happening.
I did not speak in definitives. As we said, it's unlikely he gets double-digit targets.
And I was saying it's likely.
Okay, but you said that this is such a ridiculous conversation. You said that we definitively said he's not going to get 10 targets, but you didn't say that.
I'm going back to the tape.
You checked the tape.
You might not have. Tuttle did.
I feel sick now after this conversation.
Like, here's the thing. A.J. Brown, since Tannehill's been in the offense, a lot of times he's actually gotten decent target shares. This 13 target game might seem like an outlier, but it's not. What the outlier is the fact that Tannehill probably had to throw a bit more than he has in the past. The last 4 A.J. Brown has the same target share as he's had with Tannehill, like in this last game. Just now Tannehill had to throw for 36 passes. Tannehill's now going up against New Orleans, who can put up a large amount of points on the boards. Yes, they play at a little bit of slower pace, so we're probably not going to have that much, like that many plays in the offense. But still, expecting Tannehill to throw 35 times in this game here is well within the realm of possibility. Brown is sitting there at $7K. Like, he makes a decent tournament option.
You can absolutely play him in tournaments. Mangone, I assume, is coming at that from a cash perspective.
Yeah,
you can't play him in cash.
But this guy has explosive play upside, and he might end up with double-digit targets again.
Yeah, I'm probably going to pass on A.J. Brown in tournaments, but I get it, right? You can play anyone in tournaments, play whoever you want, vomit stacks, everything.
Well, I'm not saying that, but like he's a legit talent. He's not a nobody. He's a guy we always thought that was going to break out at some point. Like he looked great in the uniform. He looked great as far as the tires, and he showed crane up for sure in his 40 and everything else. He looks like a legit athlete, and now like opportunity and he's experience. He's putting it all together and. Like Grant's saying, they have not been behind of late. They've been winning games big, and they've just been giving the ball to Henry. And against New Orleans, they're just 1-point dogs here at home. And you have to assume that they're going to have to throw the ball a little bit more, at least than they have been outside of the game last week. Work our way down here, Mangone, because you're going to give us some cheapies, I think, or at least some guys in the mid-tier.
Yeah. So one guy I did want to say, from the Lockett's to like the, let's say, 6K range, there's like a couple guys that definitely stick out. McLaurin, if you can trust Haskins to get him the ball, that's like the one if. Yeah, I know. That's my problem. I can't. That's my big issue too. Hilton has a nice price. The question with Hilton is, do you trust, he's healthy enough and you trust Brissett? But the guy I like the most is Amari Cooper, 6.7K, right? I think he's a guy that I like a ton. I'd play him over A.J. Brown. It's a big game too. The weather is a big thing you have to check though. I don't know what's going to happen. That game's in Philly, so could be nasty weather. I think he's interesting. I did want to mention the below the 6K guys, right? Michael Gallup 5.5 again. You got to check that weather, but that's something that's interesting. Christian Kirk at 5.6 will probably gain some traction against Seattle, who doesn't have a great secondary. But Odell Beckham Jr. He's 5.8K. Can we do it here in this spot? Again,
he's a mess, man. That whole team is just a disaster.
I know, but it's 5.8K. Again, the matchup's like the worst, right? They did beat Baltimore, and they beat the brakes off them when they played them. But 5.8K is crazy for Odell Beckham, that's all. It's just DK Metcalf course more. And if I told you that happened at the start of this season, you would tell me I was nuts.
This means probably nothing, but Beckham, that game against Baltimore, had 2 catches for 7 yards, for what it's worth. I don't know if he got hurt in that game or what the story is. First Look podcast again, boys. But, yeah. And they're talking about, like, turmoil there. They're talking about him wanting to be out. If you saw, there was a shot of him and, like, Landry on the sidelines in the fourth quarter. They were still in the game. It was like, 11-point game, and they looked miserable. They wanted to be anywhere else.
Talk about the Chargers.
Well, okay, do you want to talk about Keenan Allen? Feel free to talk about Keenan Allen.
No, Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, 5K and 6.3K. Mike Williams has been fantastic recently. So both those guys are good options. I mean, Keenan Allen's finally seeing a decent target share after he had a long absence of having double-digit targets, but he had it last week. Didn't need to throw the week before. Didn't need to throw that much the week before that. So, like, he's still priced where he has a huge amount of upside, again, in a great matchup. Same thing with Mike Williams, like, huge upside. But the guys I really like in this range, Kenny Golladay, like, I know he had a bad week last week, but with Blau in the offense, the 2 weeks before, he actually had – are you laughing at me?
Yeah, because you're going to talk about Blau again. Go ahead. Blau's terrible. He has no right to being an NFL quarterback, but continue.
That's fine. What did Golladay put up against Minnesota?
Okay, he had an 80-yard touchdown when somebody forgot to defend him, and he had
no, that was the week before.
Whatever.
He's averaged, like, prior to last week, 2 starts with Blau, he had 20-plus points in each matchup. And he just happened – Amendola had 20 points last week. Blau has created a bunch of 20-point offensive outputs for wide receivers, and Galladay's now at 6.5K. Cortland Sutton, I know he had a bad week last week, but now he gets a matchup versus Detroit. And people might just look at last week and be like, all right, Locke's not that great. But he was fantastic the weeks before. Sutton is getting a huge target share in this offense, and he just happened to have a bad week because it was snow and Locke couldn't do anything against a tougher-than-average Kansas City defense that can get pressure.
Dean, you really don't hold on. Grant, Dean, you really don't like Galladay or Amendola. You don't think they're good plays at all?
I think they're fine. I just think Blau's terrible.
Yeah, he is, but it doesn't matter because they don't run the ball. Like they all they do is pass. So there's so much volume.
Okay, you realize I think they had the lowest total. It's a 38 total in that game, Detroit at Denver, right? 38 total. Detroit's out of the dome, off the turf, and they are 6.5-point dogs. Grant, you're the accountant. What is the team total projection for Detroit?
What do you think the team? Okay, who has Blau faced?
What?
Blau has faced Tampa Bay, Minnesota, and Chicago. Two of those are very good defenses, and he has thrown it 38, 40, and 43 times. I'm not saying that Blau is a good play. You notice how I did not mention him when it came to quarterbacks as a good play. What I'm talking about is offense. Oh, no, I did not mention Blau as a good play. I mentioned that we mentioned him last week. That did not go well, but this is a different matchup. He's still going to throw the ball 40 times, and those passes have to go somewhere. We live in a world where in some sites you get a full point for PPR. And in this case, Galladay can end up with 15 targets. In this case, Amendola can end up with 15 targets. They are both underpriced, considering their upside, because Galladay can, in any given scenario, take a ball 70 yards, and he can end up with 150 yards, 1 or 2 touchdowns, and 10 catches.
Well, so can like 20, 30. Every one of these guys can do that. I love Galladay, too. I think he's a super talent, but I don't know why he's got a better chance of doing that than Sutton or than your boy Keenan Allen.
Okay. You're talking about two guys that I said I like more. So thank you, Dean. Thank you for listening, you dick. But also, too,
did you guys argue this much on last podcast? I feel like you guys had a very nice, cordial conversation with Big T.
But I'm saying the 6K range.
I did argue with Big T a lot about it.
I don't feel like welcome back.
I'm just angry I have to tout Vegas Dave.
I'm so excited for that.
And run for mayor, potentially. We'll see.
Yeah, but then, I guess Christian Kirk, after the big bust last week, could put up a big game this week. James Washington is interesting going up against the Jets. Guy just had 11 targets. He has double-digit targets. A decent amount here is priced at 5.3K. The guy's got some speed. He can go for a big game. So he's not the worst idea in the world. I know they were just throwing in that game, but it's there. But, yeah, Mike Williams, Amendola, 5K, 4.9K. They have the volume. Anytime I'm getting a guy that probably is going to get 10 targets and they're around 5K, I'm going for it.
Are we back on the Jacksonville receivers? I know you talked about him last week, and I know we talked about Connolly. It's one thing I think you're right, Connolly. I think Mangone played him as well too. So there you go. We got there. There was a never in doubt, right, Mangone, as far as Connolly?
Yeah, never a doubt, man. Same with Ward too. Never a doubt there either, man. That was great.
I did not play Ward, so I was very upset by that last play. But he's another cheapie as well, obviously. Who wants to talk about the Jags receivers or Mangone? Are we going back to Ward? Is it Ward season?
Yeah, I think you can consider him again. There's a big difference between 4.2K and 3K.
Yeah.
I know it's cheap, but there's a huge difference between that. Keep in mind, 3K is just the nuts. So, if any of these guys pop up, these 3K guys pop up that can be, really good plays, not really good plays, but kind of, decent plays. I think they're going to be, guys you want to consider in the Jan and in-bill. But yeah, I think Ward is still in play here, still in the conversation. And same with Conley too. They're going to be talked about, but they're not going to be as heavily chalk as they were last week, I feel like.
Grant?
Deshaun Hamilton's sitting there at 3.2K. He had 9 targets last week, had 2 catches. I probably won't use him, but he is going up against Detroit, and he's a possibility. The Jacksonville wide receivers all depend on if Chark plays. If Chark plays, he's absolutely in play. It's that simple. He has a connection with Minshew. It's a decent spot, or could potentially be a decent spot. We don't know what Atlanta defense we're going to get at any given time. But he has upside. If he's out, though, I'm going right back to the well with Dede, Conley, and with Cole. Cole at 3,600. He's got some big upside. It didn't work out great last week.
Didn't stop you from victory lapping him.
I mean, it didn't work out bad. He got 10.6 points, Dean. For 3K, I'll take that every time.
Yeah. Would you have taken those 10 points instead of Cole, instead of your boy Ward there, Mangone?
No, I definitely would have taken Ward over him. I'm good. No chance. I liked Ward just because I thought he was the number one, right? Like, I don't know. I didn't trust Keelan Cole. Didn't think he was that great. Thought he was okay.
Well, Grant somehow was watching a different. I think he had one big 60-yard catch. Otherwise, he didn't do anything.
Did. I mean, again, these were both.
He does that often.
Often?
Yeah, when he was involved in the offense, he did that on a regular basis. With Blake Bortles.
Are you playing high school DFS or something? Is that why you know about this Keelan Cole always does well for you?
Maybe it's because his first year in the league, he had multiple 100-yard games. His second year in the league, he had multiple 100-yard games. And he won a bunch of people GPPs.
Yeah, but these situations are always fluid, obviously. Now Minshew is there. He's terrible.
This is a little bit different considering if Chark is out, he's heavily involved. He got 6 targets last week. He's probably going to get the same, if not more. And he has big playability at 3,600 on a slate where we want to pay up for Michael Thomas and we want to pay up for running backs. As of right now, we don't know what value's out there. And Keelan Cole offers some of the most upside if, in fact, DJ Chark is out again.
I mean, I'm like crapping on Grant, but like he's not wrong. So like, if I can jam everyone in, like I'm like, give me that cheap guy. Like I start looking on Twitter for like reasons to play him. I'm like, oh, this guy had lunch with Jerry Rice and learned how to catch. Like I try to find like the dumbest narratives to make me like get behind it. So yeah, like I mean, if he's cheap enough, I'll play.
Did you play Drew Lock because he was facing his ex-girlfriend's team that she owns?
No, I did not. I was all over Tyreek Hill. That was the guy I liked it. I ran it back with Sutton on one team, but I don't know. I thought like that weather I was a little worried about. Then I saw one of those tweets that came out in the morning. Drew Lock played only 25 minutes from Kansas City, so he's perfectly fine. He can play in the snow. And I was like,
sure.
Narrative Street, this guy's good in this cold, but newsflash, he was not.
By the way, Grant, Yahoo makes it easier for you because Conley, Dede Westbrook, and Cole are all $12. Like, you can't play Cole in that situation, right?
No, you play Conley or you play Dede, but it's a little bit different when he's 3,600 over on DK.
Ward is $12 by the way too. I'm just kind of seeing if anybody kind of pops up as far as some cheapies over there on Yahoo. They AJ Brown's been hiked up everywhere, man. He's like the 6th most expensive guy over there as well. Yeah, I guess it's deserved, I suppose. Sure, why not? Tight ends, Mangone, open it up.
Yeah, tight end position, I'm assuming we're going to look for value this week, but we'll talk about the guys at the top first. I'm assuming Zach Ertz will be a guy that you want to talk about a ton because, again, he is the number one there. And Greg Ward, despite getting there at the end, he's not good. The whole receiving core is absolutely dusty. They only had 3 active receivers last week, so Ertz was clearly going to be really involved. Same with Goddard. I think you have to like him again. Waller, I think he's, again, another guy you can end up going to at 6.1K. The price is a little expensive, but I talked about it last week a lot, how that Foster Moreau guy, I think his name is. I can't say his name right, I don't think. But, he was injured, right? And we saw, Waller felt like he scuffled a little bit, throughout the middle of the season when they were getting him more involved. And without him there, he just absolutely crushed. So I like going back to well on Waller. I think he's a good play at the top. Those are probably my 2 favorite guys, which I'm guessing Mark Andrews then goes low owned if you like that, but not as intrigued with him. Let's see, the cheapies, though. Dallas Goedert, he's, again, a guy that we're going to want to look to for sure. Who's playing Arizona this week?
You got to play Dallas versus Dallas, right? Is that the narrative that you want some terrible narratives? There's one for you.
Yeah. Well, I think Dallas actually was going to take him. I remember the Cowboys were going to take him, and the Eagles actually, and during the draft, they traded up and went right in front of him, so that was pretty good. But we got to talk about the flow chart, right? Jacob Hollister season. He's got to be in play at 4,200, correct? Tell us, Grant. You're the Seattle guy. You like Hollister.
I mean, I like Will Dissly this week. I think he comes back from the IR. No, he doesn't, guys. That was a joke. But Hollister, I haven't been playing him, and it's worked out recently. It didn't work out there at the beginning, but obviously against Arizona, he's very much in play. But there's other guys I prefer around that range. I mean, we mentioned Goddard, 4,100. 2 guys I'm really looking at are Noah Fant. I think he's going to.
That's another one, by the way. Noah Fant is your second longest streak. Emin Rivers, but go ahead.
Oh, well, yeah, and how has that paid off for me?
I don't know. Handsomely.
You know who hasn't gotten any love is Adam Humphries. Grant hasn't talked about his boy.
Yeah, he's been injured. The Hump Dog, we know that. We're just joking.
Oh, gosh. But,
Fant, trap.
When did I start touting him? Was against Cleveland, and he went for 115 yards and a touchdown. He's been injured a few times, but had 2 20-plus point games. Gets a matchup versus Detroit. Locke, what's the thing that most rookie QBs do? when they get into the offense. They rely on the tight end.
Through interceptions.
I don't know. I've heard all season that the rookie quarterbacks are relying on their number one receivers. That's been the narrative on every podcast I've listened to. So I don't know what's true.
I mean, it's still like
this is the first podcast you listen to, Mango, not the last. I'm not sure when you listened to that note, but yeah, go ahead.
I don't listen to any other podcast besides this one.
Oh, you come back and listen to us?
You go back and listen. 1.5 speed.
I did that once. It was very, very weird because someone else wanted to listen to it. And I just cringe whenever I hear my own voice.
You know, there's a certain mailman out there who actually likes it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We should probably look at that at the end.
We'll do that soon. Don't worry.
But, yeah, it's Noah Fant at 3,700 and Gesicki at 3,600. Cincinnati, not great versus tight end, gives a large volume of targets. Gesicki, we know that Fitzmagic likes to throw the ball to him. Gesicki's been very good for a large portion of the season. Like, the second half of the season, he's averaging 10 points, which I know that's not great for a tight end, but it's still like a very reasonable expectation when you're paying $3,600 for a tight end, and he has 20-point upside. He has touchdown upside. He had 8 targets last week, 5 the week before, 7 and 7 the weeks before that. Like, now he gets a match versus Cincinnati. If I'm paying down, like, paying up's great, but it may not be possible. So if I'm paying down, it's Fant and Gesicki are my 2 favorite guys.
Olsen's 3.9 on DK. By the way, I think you messed up. Did you not mention a certain tight end that has 2 first names that plays for your favorite team? Grant?
Now I'm lost.
Well, you're not talking to me because the Packers aren't on the slate. Well, they kind of are.
Their tight ends are terrible too. But Grant, Mangone, you know who I'm talking about? Like this is the theme of the podcast.
Nah.
Your favorite team this podcast?
Oh, Hunter Henry, man.
Grant?
Oh, I thought you were talking about the Seahawks. Yeah. Sorry, I got distracted by going to the mid-tier, and I didn't know if Mangone mentioned him because I kind of tuned him out. But, yeah, Hunter Henry, 4,700. Like, I've already mentioned him multiple times, Dean, because we've talked about the Chargers before.
Sure.
I thought we'd try and avoid that. But, yeah, Hunter Henry, like, still a guy with upside. Just I prefer the running backs and the wide receivers more. Henry came in and did great in the first matchup, and then he's kind of been – or first few matchups, and he's kind of been lost the last 3 weeks. And, like, going up against Minnesota that funnels targets to tight ends, and he only had 2 of them, I'm not locked in on the fact that he's going to be heavily involved in this offense still. Because we don't – like, he's been injured so much in his career that I'm still not sure how much we can actually trust him.
Hey, we're not officially in nonsense, but I have a question. Because, first of all, I'm looking at the Yahoo prices as far as tight ends, and Jacob Hollister is $19. That seems egregious. Like, Waller's $18. He's more expensive than Waller. Come on, what are we talking about? Hunter Henry.
Yahoo really prices up the flow chart.
Yeah, they're all with that flowchart life. And this is a random aside. I don't know. What do the kids do? I guess Mangone's got a better chance to answer this one as opposed to Grant. Mangone, are the kids still going to Hollister? Is that still a thing? Is that still a store?
That's a good question. I know there was one in the mall by me, but I don't remember last time.
Yeah, and everybody's
you still go to the mall?
No, I haven't. I can't remember the last time I was at the mall. So
over on Yahoo, by the way, Ian Thomas, if Olsen doesn't end up playing, which I'm guessing he will, like Indy does give up volume to tight ends. Ian Thomas is $11 over on Yahoo. I think he's actually still pretty cheap over on DK, but not quite as cheap. No, he's 3,100. Yeah, he's still cheap. Going up against Indy, it's a good spot.
Yeah, but then you got to play Ian Thomas. That's the tricky part.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Greg Olson's back, so I don't know like what they're gonna do.
That's what I think.
I mean, if for some reason Greg Olson yields and doesn't play, there was a guy an intelligent guy once said, rookie quarterbacks lean on their tight ends, and Will Grier is a rookie.
Is that Booger?
Close.
Don't compare me to Booger.
Was there any boogerisms tonight? Mango, I know you're always all over that, but I rarely watch.
Yes, there were some boogerisms. Let me find them. Ian Hartitz actually gave us a little sample of it. So
are we on the nonsense portion, guys?
Well, we're talking about Hollister, the clothing store. I think so. I think we seamlessly segued. I feel like this whole episode was nonsense, if we're being honest. But
it was actual sports-related nonsense.
So here it is. Here's the Booger Monday Night Football highlights. So when one of the plays, he drew up the defense, right? There were 2 deep safeties. So he drew a circle, and then he drew a longer circle in the hole. He drew a dick diagram.
Like a penis?
On there. Yes, he drew a penis on there.
That's amazing.
It was amazing. He's an idiot.
He's just trolling. He's just having fun now, right?
Yeah, I
he
think
did it on
it's his
purpose.
entire gag now. I think he's just buying into it.
So then he wondered out loud if Brady wasn't the GOAT because of O.J. Simpson.
What?
Yep, that was one of the things he said. Then he mentioned how Michael Thomas isn't a 4.3 guy like Tyreek Hill. Roughly a dozen times he brought that up.
What does that matter? I don't.
He just like every time Michael Thomas caught the ball, he'd just be like talking about how great he is and mentioned he just wasn't a 4.3 guy like Tyreek Hill, but he's so great at X, Y, and Z.
You still can't guard him. Yeah, all right. I feel like I missed out. I was watching basketball most of the night, but I didn't catch the end of that game because we had a little bit of sweat as far as the showdown slate, boys.
A little bit. Someone won a GPP.
Yeah, I entered it like 7 minutes before lock, and I'm like, "Oh, that's starting. Let's just fire a couple things, like throw like $20 in there." But there you go, think life. And here's my screenshot. It's a verbal screenshot because I don't know what the rules are on Twitter. I think it's not big enough. It wasn't like this is not the main tournament. It was like for 50. Oh, actually, you know what? I chopped it too. Like 1,500 or something. Nobody cares.
You don't screenshot unless it's the big showdown win.
Is that the rules of screenshotting?
I just don't screenshot generally.
Are we done with the show? You want to talk some nonsense now, boys?
Well, we should probably talk about our question of the week.
Yeah, that's nonsense.
Yeah. Well, let's do our draft and then talk about nonsense.
Are we doing quarterback, running back, receiver now?
Yeah, we changed it last week with that. We're just doing straight up 3 rounds.
I go away for 1 week, and
I told him already. You got a warning. Don't even start. I told you this on Skype.
We got to do 3 different positions.
Yeah, and you better be ready to pick this.
Can I pick a tight end?
Oh gosh, please don't add too much more.
No, instead of
you can pick a tight end instead of a wide receiver.
So where am I in the batting order? I take a Big T spot.
I guess you just go. Well, you're generally a loser. You can go second or third if you want.
Okay. Well, you're first because you lost last week, correct?
Yes, I very much did lose last week.
All right.
2 weeks in a row. Keep that in mind.
Yeah, man.
It's not like someone else hasn't done that, and the other person hasn't done that.
Don't get all defensive. It's okay.
I'm just don't like Vegas Dave. I'm going to start off here, and I'm just going to go with the general number 1 overall pick, which is CMC.
Oh, man, that's like a cheat code. That's not cool.
Well, you get to go first.
I know.
Who goes second, me or Dean? How's that work?
We'll just go with Dean since he missed last week.
Oh boy. It's like I have no idea this is coming. I'm never prepared for it. Oh, we got to pick a player now? How does this work? You know what? I'm going to take Joseph Mixon.
Oh my gosh. Did not see that one coming.
All right. Listen, I'm going to take the easy one. Just give me Michael Thomas as my receiver.
Yeah, I don't know why you didn't do that.
Dean,
you know he's not as fast as he's only runs
he's not a 4.3 guy.
Tyreek Hill's a lot faster. I don't know if that factors in.
So yeah, I'm going to take that, and then I am going to take Will Grier at 4.3.
Oh boy, you fell for the trap.
I'm going to laugh when he doesn't start.
Why? Isn't he start? I mean, if he doesn't start, I get to pick a different one.
Take Tyrod.
You already took Grier.
No, if he doesn't start, I get to pick another one. That's a rule. So
you just made that rule up.
No, Brandon said that before.
Will he be in uniform?
He'll be in uniform. Be benched in the middle of the game? It's definitely a possibility.
Well, that's fine. If he's benched, I don't care. That's fine. If he gets benched, so be it.
That's not fine. That'd be terrible for you.
They're not going to bench. Why would they bench Will Grier?
I don't know. You got to see what you have in Kyle Allen.
Yeah, that's what you got to do. You got to punt on like 4th and 2 when you're down 34, like the Colts did tonight. Like, stop worrying about it. Dude.
They were on your next pick.
They were on the opponents. They were on New Orleans' 39-yard line tonight. 39-yard line. And it was like 4th and 8 or 4th and 9 in a dome. And they punted. Imagine.
Dude, make a damn pick.
It's your pick. You get 2.
You have to pick 2.
I
did. Jerk.
I just did. I said Will Grier and Michael Thomas.
Oh, I wasn't listening.
I really did not listen to you.
I totally missed that, too. We literally made fun of his pick and still didn't hear it.
Yeah, Dean, go ahead.
All right. So I need a quarterback and a receiver, correct?
Yeah. But you pick one, and then I get back to back.
I'm trying to play trying to be sharp about it.
Well, you already picked a running back, so there's no.
Yeah. I'm gonna take Julio Jones.
All right, I'm taking Keenan Allen, and I'm taking Lamar Jackson.
Oof. Why not Philip Rivers? How could you not stack him up, man?
Well, I'm just taking the guaranteed 30 points with Lamar.
Well, I was listening to a podcast, and they guaranteed me that the Chargers were going to score like 50 points because they ran off every skill position player.
I took Keenan Allen. It's called diversification.
You don't need it. No,
this
all
is
right.
cash, not tournaments.
So is it my turn?
No.
It's Dean's turn if he
Mangone
makes a pick.
I'm asking. I like to.
Well, you could. I need a
You
quarterback.
can
Do you need
go,
a quarterback?
yeah, so it doesn't matter. Go ahead.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Well, I did want to say, like, if Will Grier, like, for some reason doesn't get the start, I'll tweet out everyone's picks and my new quarterback. Just wanted to. So if anyone wants to follow along.
Well, no, Grier, they've already announced him as a starter. They wouldn't rope-a-dope him.
Oh, well, you guys were saying that. I mean, that's why I was confused.
I didn't know. I'm going to be honest. I just didn't know.
Okay, I was confused because I thought he was, but I was like, I don't know. Maybe something changed. I was traveling a bunch today. So, okay, so my running back, we are going to go with Chris Carson at 8.5K.
Man, you guys are all going for the guaranteed points. I don't like this at all. This is scaring me.
Yeah, it's not like you had a chance to do that.
Yeah, I mean, dude, you made the huge mistake with Michael Thomas. That's why when I said, like, who's picking second, I was like, please let me pick second because that was an advantage.
You should have known that Dean was going to do something stupid.
I know. I should have just laid low, but.
Well, I'm going to do something even stupider. This is a GPP, and I'm just going to lock up all the Bengals points because you got to do it. The team has one win going into Week 16. We got Joseph Mixon, and we're going to get the Red Rocket. Or is it the Red Rifle? Is it Red something? We got
it's Red Rifle. Red Rocket refers to
something else.
Dog anatomy.
Urban. Yeah, it's an Urban Dictionary thing. The name is Dalton. We got Andy Dalton along with Joe Mixon and Julio Jones. Lock up those Bengals. Who dey?
Oh, yeah. So we should probably get to our question, get to more nonsense. Guys, if you don't want to listen to nonsense, then you can just go.
Wait, is that Who Dey's a New Orleans thing or a Cincinnati thing or both? New Orleans, right? That's Who Dat. I think Cincinnati's Who Dey. Is that correct?
I have no idea.
All right. So my high school was called the Bengals, so maybe I'm mixing high school and NFL. I don't know what's going on. But, all right. We have more nonsense. Oh, give out some T-shirts, guys. Anybody, if they've stuck around this long. Who were the winners from last week?
So the first one, the question was, why are you listening to a podcast on Tuesday morning?
Great time to ask that question, by the way.
Yeah. Maisleek 7. You get a free week of RG Premium. He listens to the podcast because he's a mailman, and my soothing voice keeps him from going insane. And then SNA Juice, the only premium member that answered, which is actually smart, like helps him find out season-long leagues for waiver claims and injury news that he might have missed. Like, honestly, for season-long, we're probably helpful.
Is this where I humble brag and say that I'm in 2 season-long teams? One, I'm in the finals with my friends, and I'm also in the finals in the RG. 16-man season-long. I'm in the finals. I'm playing against Napster, man. Wish me luck.
Is it a good time for me to brag that I got last in both of mine? Because for the 3rd straight year in both leagues, I got Antonio Brown and David Johnson.
Dude, I'm in the finals with David Johnson. How about that?
Well, did you draft Antonio Brown? I missed the playoffs with like 2 points because of some guy that trade. Like I did the math. You never want to do the math.
Oh.
I did the math, and one guy gave up on the season, traded Hopkins for Eckler. And I did the math, and I'd be in the championship right now, but instead I'm in last place.
Well, wait, there's a guy that's better than somebody that's in the Chargers?
Yeah, that's true. But, it just everything, went wrong.
Mangone, would you describe Grant's voice as soothing?
Everything about Grant is soothing.
Suck it, Dean.
Grant, myself and Mangone had a conversation off air about Mailman, and he didn't think it was possible that Mailman walk.
No, I did, Dean. That is so, Dean.
Yes.
Dean. I did not say that. You're taking it out of context. I said a mailman gig wouldn't be that bad. And you said it'd be a terrible job because I'm about to walk. I said, Dean, I'm not going to take the walk.
I said it depends on the route. I didn't say it's route dependent.
And I'm not taking a shitty route, Dean. You don't try and.
This is your first. You don't all of a sudden get the best route on your first day.
Listen, I'm just.
You can just waltz right in and say, "I'm Mangone. Give me the easiest route."
Like walking 7 miles a day.
We're DFS players. We don't like walking 7 miles a day.
Man, I would never want to be a pro golfer having to walk 4 miles a day.
You said 7, not 4.
I mean, it's actually, most of them are closer to 7 depending on the course. And a lot of times they have to play 2 rounds of the day if play gets suspended. Plus, there's all the walking around beforehand. Like most professional golfers during a day of golf walk more than 7 miles.
You just stuck in a really extreme example, by the way. There's very rare times they do 2 rounds in the same day.
I know, but
and I'll be the John Daly, and I'll have a golf club.
A lot of the courses are, especially if you're a pro, are around 7,000 yards, which, if I remember correctly, is roughly 4.5, 5 miles. And then there's walking in between tees, walking to your ball because you're rarely ever right down the middle, walking around. So it's much more than 7 miles a day. A lot of times, Mangone.
Can Mace Leakey
I see what Dean did there. Dean, you always do this. You try and spin it. I caught you good there, man. I'm getting better at catching you trying to spin this stuff.
What did I do?
All right, so the question for this week is favorite Christmas movie. Like, most likely the winner is going to be if someone mentions one, even if it's ridiculous, like a horrible one, because I enjoy horrible Christmas movies.
You need a GIF or something. You can't just say a name. You got to sell it somehow.
Yeah, I mean, that's generally it. Like, unless only 2 people answer, then you might win.
And there's only one correct answer, by the way, but go ahead. But what is the correct answer, Grant?
Die Hard.
Mangone?
I'm going with Elf, man. I'm a big fan of Elf, so that's my.
You guys are 0 for 2. That's unfortunate. I mean, if you want to say a Bad Santa, you can say Bad Santa. If you want to say Christmas Vacation, you can say that as well. But the correct answer, it's Eyes Wide Shut, boys. Have you seen Eyes Wide Shut?
I don't know if I have.
You'd know it if you saw it.
I don't think I've heard of it.
It's haunting. Like, the piano in that movie is awesome. But there you go. So if you want to persuade the judges, you guys know the answers already. We just gave away the answers to the test.
Yeah, don't answer those. Although there is one similar to Die Hard that's a Christmas movie that will win.
Die Hard 2?
No.
Oh.
It's another series. The first one is a Christmas movie, I will say, but it's a similar.
Home Alone?
It's the same genre as Die Hard. Don't give away all the obvious answers. Well, I'll tell you after the show.
Oh, it's the Muppet Christmas Carol.
Yes, it's very much like Die Hard.
They're both based on true stories. Everything else.
Is it Jingle All the Way?
I watched that the other day. I forgot how good that movie is.
You forgot how good. There's so much wrong in it. First of all, why are you watching that? Secondly, it's terrible. That's the Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sinbad?
Yeah.
Vehicle?
That worked just how I wanted it to. I knew Dean hated that movie.
It's a terrible movie.
I knew there was a chance Grant liked that movie. I knew that was the perfect set.
What do you think its Rotten Tomatoes score is?
On Jingle All the Way? You want the audience, or what are you getting, the audience or the critics?
I think the critics is what's showing up here. Let's go with the critics.
Critics, I will set it at 12%.
Mangone, over under.
12%. It's got to be under.
15%.
Ooh, good line. Sharp line.
That was a great line. I was impressed.
We got anything else? Is that it, boys? This is week 16. Sorry, we got off the rails a little bit too much.
Did you talk about the tweets enough for Grant? I mean, we did the Vegas Dave thing. Did you mention there's 2?
They're coming.
Yeah,
just
you
stay
guys
tuned.
weren't good enough to come up with one beforehand.
Yeah,
dude, I was at a wedding, man. I was on the road. What do you want from me?
I literally spend 5 minutes max on these ones. Well, Every single week, I give you 3 options that I took 5 minutes in order to come up with.
Some really awful options sometimes. Thanks for that. I appreciate it. But I like to handcraft them. You know, it takes time to let them ferment.
I told you this, Grant, man. We're not the greatest like you, man. We can't just do it like on a snap of the finger.
Yeah, Grant.
I am the greatest. That is true.
We all have a special set of skills, and I don't happen to have your special set of skills, unfortunately.
Yeah, which apparently is vomiting tweets and chugging a beer.
Grant's the Liam Neeson of vomiting and creating tweets. With that, anything else, boys, or shall we leave the people?
I think we went way over time anyway, so we should probably get going.
Yeah, if you guys heard your name as far as winning, slide into my DMs in the old Twitter machine. I'll make sure to get the information. We'll pay it forward, and we'll get to who is it? What's the list again, Grant? You have that in front of you, or we don't have that in front of us right now?
It was S&A Juice and Maisley K7.
There you go. And I want to hear more about Maisley's route, and I want to see if Mangone approves of his route. Because
I do want to know about his route and how if it's good, bad, or ugly.
How much do you walk a day, Maisley?
I think he's in the vehicle.
He's in the vehicle 100%, and that's the gig I'll take.
And he gets to listen to podcasts all day. That's a good gig. Okay.
Yeah.
Government isn't bad too. All the good perks.
Yeah, good retirement. I would just listen to Stern for like 4 hours, but whatever. We don't. Oh, of course, this podcast as well. Obvious goes without saying. He's Mangone. He's Grant. I'm Dean. Enjoy week 16. We're out of here. Holler.